This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Marshall Gill of Blackballed. How you doing, Marshall?
I'm good, thanks.
Thanks. Doing all right. Excellent. I'm talking to you from the offices of Metal Express Radio. I love these Skype backgrounds.
Well,
so if I knew good.
There's a background here, but
I like it.
Yeah, it's raining in Glum. That's England for you. Raining.
I was gonna say, you're in England. I would expect it to be raining.
Yeah.
So if I knew absolutely nothing about Blackballed, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Okay. Personally, I'm heavily influenced by blues. I'm a huge blues fan. And so that kind of, in a lot of ways, because I sing and play guitar and I write a lot of the sort of riffs and stuff, so that's kind of the focus. But I would say late 60s, early 70s blues rock, but with a modern tight edge to it.
Okay, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Your 2016 album, Fulton's Point, was recorded in just 5 days. How long did it take you to record your latest album, Elephant in the Room?
That's that's not a tricky question to answer, but maybe it's not one I wanted to answer.
Okay.
So this one, we ended up recording it ourselves, just due to financial reasons, really. So it was, and we just kept hitting stumbling blocks for some reason. So the room that we were renting, we couldn't use at one time, so it got delayed. And then we rented a different room that we couldn't use that. It just ended up dragging on. So we started recording at the beginning of January, sort of mid-January this year. And we did 5 tracks. And then it was about 2 or 3 weeks, and then we went back and did another 5 tracks. But literally, we had to set like in a studio, everything's set up already. Whereas here, we had to literally take all the recording equipment in and set it all up. So it just took time. And then I mixed it. So I was always doubting myself. It's not my job. I'm a guitarist. So to actually do the mixing, it was quite daunting, really. So I just kept second guessing and doubting. And so it ended up taking a long time. So we started mid-January and we finished sort of mid to the end of May. So
that's not too bad.
So it definitely wasn't 5 days, though.
Right. Now, did you record it in any exotic locations like you did for the last New Model Army album?
We live in Oldham, so some people would think Oldham's exotic, but not judging by the weather today, to be fair. But no, literally, we just recorded the first 5 tracks. We have a rehearsal space, and the first 5 tracks were recorded. We rented a bigger, better room, but then, like I said, we had delays and stuff. So the second 5 tracks, the second batch, we just did in our own rehearsal room, just a smallish kind of rehearsal room. So definitely not exotic.
Is there a story behind the album's title, Elephant in the Room?
Nothing really. We were driving to a gig one day and just chatting in the van, just literally on the way to a gig. What should we call the album? This was before we'd recorded anything. It was just ideas, throwing ideas about, really. And there were lots of stupid names and funny things going on, and then that one came out, and it's just a well-known English saying, elephant in the world saying, but English saying, and it seemed to fit. Yeah, it seemed to fit, so we just kind of stuck with it.
Okay. You just put out a video for Another Lonely Day. Was that song written prior to the COVID lockdowns, and kind of where the video addresses sort of the world we're living in today is kind of makes the connect, I guess, if it wasn't written?
It's an interesting one. The music, what I tend to do when I write a song is I'll almost every time I come up with sort of guitar parts or ideas, and then I'll just hum or sing a melody over the top, just to make it sound like a song. And sometimes I'll just make words up, just sing anything. And that particular song was probably, the majority of it was wrote maybe 6 months, a year ago. And I just recorded it on my phone and sang just any kind of lyrics, just whatever came to mind. And then when it came to actually finishing it off, the lyrics that I'd actually sang, just making it up, are still the first verse. So the words I made up a year ago just seem to sit really well with this sort of COVID situation. So the music was wrote 6 months, a year ago, and the lyrics, the first verse was ages ago, and the rest of it was since this COVID. So I just tied it all in together with that. And then the video, it was obviously, it's got to be something to do with it. So we ended up going to Manchester at like 5 o'clock in the morning just to make sure there was nobody about, because it was just after the lockdown had eased here.
Yep.
And we wanted it to obviously fit in with the COVID thing. So, yeah, we just got up early and went down there at 5 in the morning, make sure nobody was about. I think it works well. It works well with the song, I think.
Yeah, it's got sort of an old film noir feel to it, I think.
Yeah.
Your new drummer, Alex Whitehead, debuts on Elephant in the Room. How did his involvement come about?
Well, the previous drummer, he left April last year. And at first, we weren't sure whether to carry on or because, we were a tight unit. But then after, a month or two went by and it's like, no, we must carry this on. So we just put out auditions for a drummer. I've bumped into Alex in the past, so we kind of knew each other. But yeah, he came to the audition. It was really strange. We had the auditions and most people just didn't play the music very well. I was quite surprised. But Alex just nailed it. So as soon as he came in, he was just played everything spot on, perfect. So it was it was an obvious choice, really. And when we get along really well, and he's local to where we live, so it fits in fantastic, really.
Perfect. You had a spring tour that was canceled due to the COVID lockdowns. Are you still going to be able to tour on this album? It looks like you have something in the fall.
Yeah, it's all really difficult. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, at the moment, nobody seems to know what's happening. So we did have some gigs booked in September, only a few, and then some in October. But unfortunately, I think, I don't know if we've even mentioned this officially yet, but they've been cancelled or postponed. So what we're hoping to do is just start booking. You're trying to book things for next year now, for early sort of February, March time. But yeah, the gigs that we had lined up they're all in the bin, unfortunately.
Understandable. Are you guys going to try to do any online things? I mean, a lot of bands have been doing quarantine jam sessions and stuff like that.
Yeah, we haven't had a go at this yet. If I'm 100% honest, most of the time, I don't think they sound that good. So sometimes they do, I'm not saying everybody, but sometimes,
yeah.
So we were we didn't really, we would rather not do one than do one that sounds bad. So, but we have been talking about it because obviously the gigs are cancelled, and so we do need to do one, really. I mean, make sure people still know we're alive. So, it is something we're talking about. I'm sure we'll do one before the end of the year, if not a couple.
Oh, good. You and bassist Tom Wibberley, if I'm pronouncing that correct, appear to have an appreciation for fine hats. Is there a story behind that?
Not really. Years ago, I just started wearing hats quite a long time ago now. and I've got a fair assortment. And then when we decided to start this band, to try it, we had a photo shoot booked before we'd even wrote a song. So we'd kind of jammed some stuff, but we'd not actually started writing. But we decided on a name, on a logo, and we booked a photo shoot to just try and sort of, get a bit of hype about the band. And so we just decided to dress smart, like the old blues guys. Again, I love blues music. So the old blues and soul guys, they always look slick as anything, didn't they? They look fantastic. So we kind of decided to just dress smart. So I had a bowler hat at the time that I wore regularly. So Tom just said he'd wear a top hat, which at first I'm not sure he was confident with, but now you can never, he's always got it on. So
it looks a little like the Willy Wonka hat.
Yeah, it's been said before.
Oh, okay. Going back to Fulton's Point album for a little bit, the cover is very reminiscent of a Far Side comic strip.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
Something you're a fan of? I mean, it looks very Gary Larsonish.
That's interesting because I haven't seen any of the Far Side stuff for years. Right. But yeah, I'd not even put it together. But yeah, it does have. It's very similar. But how that came about, we had the idea to do the cover as it is. And a friend of a friend, I asked a guy who is an amazing artist. He's a tattoo artist. And I asked this guy, Ben Stone, he's really good. And he said he wouldn't do it, but he had a good friend, Phil Wade. He said, and Phil is fantastic, but he doesn't do it for a job. He just does it to pass the time. So we got in touch with Phil, and he sent us the pictures of the cars that he'd drawn. He sent us them, and they were so unbelievable. And he was just like, "These are samples. Do you think it's okay?" And we were blown away totally. So so Phil did all of that, but it wasn't actually from the Far Side, or maybe he's a fan. I should ask him.
There would have been a cow in the car if it was truly a Far Side thing, right?
With the others on show.
Right, exactly. You still an active member of New Model Army. Did you start Blackballed because you had other ideas you wanted to get out, or you just wanted to play in a different style on your downtime? New Model Army were having a quiet time, so this will have been 2012, and they, we'd had a couple of busy years, so that particular year we were just kind of quiet. But I'm a musician, and I can't sit around for too long. I just need to play. So it was literally just, there were no gigs, so I needed to play some music. So we started to do some jamming, and it worked really well. We really enjoyed it straight away. So yeah, it just came about by accident in a way, really, I guess. Is there a story about the band's name, Blackballed?
There is. It's not an exciting story, but so as I said earlier, we had a photo shoot booked, and we'd kind of come up with lots of ideas. So I had a logo that I'd come up with that was two B's. So I was trying to think of band names that would have two B's in the title. So Broken Bones, and there were lots of different ideas, but nothing that we liked. And then a drummer friend of ours, Chris Webb, he mentioned it, Blackballed. I wasn't too sure at first, but it's kind of stuck, and it's worked really well for us, actually. Although, the story behind Blackballed is like the Masons. If you don't get in the club, you get blackballed. Right. And sometimes when there's a bit of bad luck for us, we kind of feel like it's the names brought it on somehow. We get blackballed sometimes,
Right, you're gonna come up with this epic story on how the band name came. I mean, we'll delete this interview in like 5 years when you do, but you can be like, we couldn't get into any clubs, nobody would let us play, and this and that, and this one guy gave us the opportunity, and
well, that definitely would be the better story. Yeah.
So, I was reading that New Model Army fans, they call themselves the family. Do the Blackballed Fans have a name for themselves?
I don't know. I don't think so. It's kind of interesting because when we first started, quite a lot of the New Model Army fans came to watch. And it's nothing like New Model Army, obviously. The music's really different.
Right.
So I kind of think some of them came and were just not interested at all. So quite a lot of them just came to see what was going on, really. But there is quite a number of them who've stuck around. And I tend to go for a beer. If I'm gigging with New Model Army and there's a bar somewhere close, I'll go for a beer before the gig. So I bump into these people who I've seen at the Blackballed gigs as well, which is really cool.
Good. Is there anything else you wanted to touch upon that I didn't hit?
Nothing that I can think of in particular. No, just
okay. I wanted to tell you that the album is great. I mean, I love it.
Do you know it's really interesting because with Leon leaving, with the previous drummer leaving, we used to write quite a lot of songs together. Whereas it's like 99.9% just I've wrote it. Tom, on one of the tracks, Tom came up with a bass line and we worked together and sort of wrote the rest together. But predominantly I've wrote this, so it was quite tricky actually. I'm sort of a little bit protective over the music. So I don't know. I don't even understand why, but so it's really nice to get some good feedback about it. It really is.
I mean, blues rock is kind of, that's sort of my thing. I love the blues-based rock and roll. You don't get a lot of it here in the States anymore. I mean, another band I think they're also from one of the European places, King.
Yes. Yeah.
If you've heard of them, there's like a bluesy style, kind of like, Bob Seger over here. That's kind of what you guys a little Bob Seger, a little more bluesy, not so much commercial, and that's a good thing.
But this is something that I think is interesting as well, is like, there's a lot of bands out there. I love music. I'm a huge music fan of all kinds. But there's I feel that music nowadays, it almost doesn't take a risk at all. It seems like, especially rock music, it seems to have a bracket that it fits into. And most people's, bands, it's the same kind of formula for each song, for each album. And so, whereas like if you listen to a Beatles album or a Zeppelin album, one will be a full-on rock song, one will be really chilled out, something will have strings, something's a ballad, And I just think, for me personally, that's just makes it more interesting music. So that's kind of what we tried to do with this album. So it's got some rocky stuff on there. It's got some really chilled out stuff. Just tried to mix it up a bit. Excellent.
So that's all I got for today, Marshall. Thanks for speaking with Metal Express Radio.
That's fantastic. It's great for your interviewers. Thank you.